Okay, I think it's 7:30 and we can start. Let me formally welcome you, Dr. Bryan Carter. It is our pleasure, it is our honor that you have agreed to do the first talk of the Vardha series of the Digital Humanities Lecture Series at IIT Jodhpur. For those who uh, do not know Dr. Carter, he is an associate professor of Africana Studies at the University of Arizona and is also the director for the Center for Digital Humanities at the University of Arizona. And today he's going to talk about his experiences with digital humanities and particularly for the next generation. So over to you, Dr. Carter. Um, we're looking forward.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm just going to change my view so that I'll be able to see the bigger screen, and you can do the same as we go through the discussion or presentation. I usually always have a chat window open, so please feel free to post any questions or comments that you have. And from time to time, I'll glance over at that chat window and respond to some of those if they're something that I can stop for, or at the very end, we'll go back through some of those questions that you might have. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to speak to your class. I really appreciate it, Professor, sharing some ideas. And for those of you that are here, thank you very much for being here as well and allowing me to talk a little bit about what we're doing with digital humanities at the University of Arizona. First of all, for those of you that don't know, our Center for Digital Humanities is set up a little bit differently than some other centers at different universities around the country or around the nation or around the world. When you think about some centers for digital humanities, they offer workshops or symposia. They bring in guest speakers. They sometimes offer awards for faculty who are doing various projects in digital humanities, and sometimes they offer support. Sometimes those centers are actual locations that you can visit and experience certain things, and sometimes they're more virtual in their existence. Some centers or programs for digital humanities, maybe like your own, are degree seeking or degree granting, whereby students enroll in a series of courses that deal with different aspects of digital humanities, or what used to be called humanities computing. And after completing those courses, they have, quote, a degree in digital humanities. Okay, so there are so many different setups and formats, models for the study and practice of digital humanities, that one is not more or better than in any others. They're just different for different environments. So the way that we have ours set up at the University of Arizona is more research support, whereby we have a program for public humanities, public and applied humanities, that incorporates aspects of digital humanities, but also a lot of aspects of culture. The Center for Digital Humanities is really set up to support faculty members who are wanting to increase the level of technology within their individual research, because at the Research One institutions here in the United States, all faculty members are required to do levels of research that contribute to, say, a national conversation on whatever their speciality happens to be, right? That's how you stay active in your field. That's how you gain and keep tenure. That's how that's how our university maintains its status as a Research One institution here in the United States. So research is required here. And so some faculty members are finding that this field of digital humanities is one that is so very pertinent at this day and age, because of so many advances in technology, and because of the ways that we as digital humanists, we collectively understand how important it is to keep the human in the conversation. We can't let technology run rampant. We know the progress of GPT-3 or GPT-2, the AI and machine learning progress, and we have to make sure that as these technologies continue to evolve, that we continue to ensure that humans are a part of that conversation, and that we don't let that get out of control, but also that we realize that we can't stop that technological revolution, but that we may want to adopt these technologies into increasing our own understanding of humanity. And so there's no binary here. There's just making sure that things don't get out of hand, that we keep the human in the conversation, and that we make use of these tools in order to understand ourselves better, in order to communicate with one another differently, in order to interact with content dealing with humanity and ways to better humanity. How do we deal with that content differently, and how do we understand it? But by viewing something on a piece of paper versus experiencing something, that's a totally different mindset, and sometimes it can be life changing. So that's what we do at the center. We have a number of students who are in various fields: computer sciences, graphic artists, 3D modeling, videography, film, all kinds of things. And collectively, we assist faculty members with various technology projects. So, in addition to that, we also work with outside organizations, because as a digital humanist, we can't keep what we're doing locked into the academy, right? We have to do outreach. We have to make sure that the communities surrounding the university, as well as even further, understand that the university is a place of study. It's a place to advance the human understanding, science, sociology, whatever the case might be, and that we don't want to alienate ourselves from that which feeds the university. That's where our constituents are coming from, right? And so we have to keep those lines of communication open. And whatever we learn in the academy, we have to share it with the world and share it with our communities. And part of that is sharing the technology that often, when we think about underserved communities, in fact, the University of Arizona has recently been named a Hispanic serving institution. In the United States, we have various designations for different institutions that tend to attract higher numbers of underrepresented students. So when we think about a Hispanic serving institution, we have to have a certain percentage of Latinx students that are enrolling in our university, but also that come from a certain income level, because we are a land grant institution, and part of our mission is outreach, right? So when we think about how traditionally, and we as digital humanists also have to understand this. This was part of the conversation that your professor and I were having when we first started. We as digital humanists, we have to understand that access isn't ubiquitous. We all do probably understand that, but often our communities don't really think that we get it, or those that are in positions of authority and power don't understand that access is not equal everywhere. And if they do understand it, some don't care, unfortunately, right? And we've seen examples of that, particularly here in the United States. So when we think about what part of our job is, if we're thinking about how we're sharing our knowledge with our communities, sharing our technologies with our communities, and if our communities are underserved, we have a very, very unique opportunity to share some of these advanced technologies with the communities that surround us. Okay, so that's part of what we do at the center. In addition to that, we do a lot of research that we then can introduce to faculty members, so that as they are thinking about how to extend their individual research, we can say, why don't you try this? Or why don't you try this new technology? It's really cool. Or why don't you try this? It'll help you visualize what you're doing differently, or experience. So we can then make good suggestions. We also want to make sure that whatever we're doing with students, that we're advancing also our knowledge in various ways, and sharing the technological revolution with students, so that they can consider the uses of technology in different ways. Earlier, when we were talking about how our university has just instituted a program where students can rent VR headsets for classes, where normally VR headsets like the Oculus Quest, the HTC Vive, you've heard of these full VR headsets. They're normally meant for gaming, and normally when you think about a VR headset, you think gaming, you think first person shooter or whatever the case might be. Education, that's interesting. But when we look at law enforcement and the government and military training, they're all using immersive technologies. And when you think about how when you want to learn another language or when you want to learn about another culture, the best way to do that is to immerse yourself in that culture, right? Because then you're surrounded by everything that is about that culture. You can hear the sounds, you can see people in the way that they dress, you can hear languages, you can experience different parts of life that you can't get from a textbook, right? The same can be said for immersive technologies. And although we're dealing, because we're dealing with this pandemic, the immersive learning initiative that we started to consider at the University of Arizona has been fast tracked. So let's get into this talk just a little bit. And please, if you do have any questions whatsoever about terms or things that I say that you're not fully understanding or that you'd like me to go into more detail on, please feel free to pop that into the chat window. Okay. All right. So let me share my screen very quickly. There we go. All right. So a little while ago, I did a talk at my university. I'm just going to play this. There we go. I did a talk at my university called Through the Looking Glass of Digital Humanities, Engaging the Next Generation. And what that talk basically dealt with was, how we can use contemporary technologies in order to really engage this generation of students, because we know that this generation of students, as we were talking earlier, might attend class on their phones or might, communicate differently, not necessarily calling them the various, stereotypical terms that we've heard in the past. It's just that there are different ways to reach the, an end. The means to an end may not necessarily mean knowing exactly how everything works in between. It's just that you're going to use this tool to get this result. And those tools are fluid, as we've seen. So when we think about how we wish to leverage various technologies, whether it be cell or tablet technologies or something on the web, there's where we have a unique opportunity as digital humanists to consider that, as I mentioned before, we can't stop that revolution, but let's peer into that looking glass. In fact, let's go through it and travel along with these technologists who are developing these really, really cool technologies, but yet may not necessarily have a very practical use that deals with humanity, that those that are funding their research can really get behind. And that's where I think we have a very, very unique opportunity. At the University of Arizona, I mentioned a little while ago, we've been doing some very interesting things with not only immersive technologies. Let me see why this isn't changing. Hopefully things aren't. There we go. With immersive technologies. But last year I received a grant from an organization here on campus called the Center for University Education Scholarship. And I got a CUES fellowship, which allowed me to try some very interesting, I think, experimental techniques with regards to immersive technologies. When you think about immersive technologies, that is not just one thing. Immersion has bifurcated and become many different things with regards to what it really means. Early on, it meant, computer generated environments, VR, full virtual reality environments, built by a 3D modeling program and animated, and you can interact with your world. However, immersion also has now taken into account the increased resolution of 360 cameras. And right now you can get 8K 360 cameras that are not much larger than a cell phone, a little bit thicker, but they broadcast and record at amazing resolution and 10-bit color. So last year, I teach very large online lecture classes. Last year I had a class that was like 600 students, and this year so far my enrollment for the spring is almost 400 students. So I wanted to make that online, very large lecture section experience a bit more personable. So I was able to use these funds to purchase a broadcast, high quality, professional 360 camera and put that right in my office. And so when students put on a Google Cardboard, believe it or not, and this is related to our conversation about access. Remember, some students have better bandwidth than others. Some are on cell technology, some are on high-speed Wi-Fi. But we wanted to make sure that we could reach the lowest common denominator at least. So through YouTube and broadcasting in 360 straight to a YouTube channel, we were able to bring students right into my office when they put on that headset, that $12 headset, and their phone. Once again, assuming that students have a phone, and if not, they can do this from their computer, their tablet, or whatever device they have that can connect to the internet. And we don't have to get into the whole digital divide thing about people that don't have access to the internet. So we're assuming that, but students felt as if they were sitting in my office, and it really changed the experience. We used Zoom, so broadcasting both on 360 and on Zoom, and then having a big monitor on my wall so that students, as they were sitting in my office looking at me, looking at them with a conversation about literature, they can then look at the wall and see another student that was on Zoom doing maybe a student presentation like we're doing here. So that's where this all began. However, year two, the year of the pandemic, fast forwarded everything. Okay, so we were planning on rolling out some interactives within a 360 environment, but as we saw the pandemic take shape in early 2020, we also found that a number of companies began to fast forward their interactive solutions for immersive learning or for immersive engagement, because these aren't just designed for learning, they're really designed for businesses. But that's part of what we do as digital humanists as well. We look at all the things that are happening in technology, whatever they are, and we say, okay, now how can I use that to help my literature students learn about African American lit? And then you come up with very creative solutions that actually are very interesting for these students. They create memorable experiences, which then, of course, allows them to remember what happened in the class. So you get all these different learning theories in there. But we are going to talk today about three technologies that we're very excited about, that I think are going to help change the way we communicate, change the way that we're teaching at the University of Arizona, but also I think might have some very interesting ramifications on long-term ideas related to distance and online education. Okay, so that's a general introduction to some of the things that you're going to experience here. So hoping that everything works properly, let's get into some demonstrations about what we're doing. Okay, one of the technologies that we're using is called Spatial. Now, Spatial came out of beta, maybe a year ago or so, maybe a little over a year ago. And they are an amazing application platform whereby you can either be fully immersed in this space, you can use your tablet, your phone, or you can use augmented reality glasses like the InReal headset that has been launched in Europe and in Asia, but also a number of other AR-oriented headsets. AR augmented reality headsets, the ones that you can still see through, they look like sunglasses, but overlaid on top of your world are other bits of information, information on stores, unfortunately, people that you're looking at, but also thinking about, the digital humanities. It could be information related to a statue or a painting, or even supplementing a text that you're reading. I mean, imagine what we're going to be doing when we have augmented textbooks, that when we're reading a text, we can look to the side and see a video of the person that so all those things are possible. Those are the projects that we work on as digital humanists, right? So keep that in mind. Spatial has allowed for different levels of collaboration and communication that weren't possible more than a year and a half ago in this manner. And when I say weren't possible, they were possible if you had a high-end setup and all these, high-end tools and hardware. But now you can do this from a cell phone or from a mobile device. So I'm going to stop this share and let me see if I can go to, here we go. And then I'll be able to, okay, let's Let's get out of this. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. For some reason, my mouse disappeared, and I'm trying to get back to it. So let me, oh, there we go. Exit. Perfect. Okay. So, perfect. Okay, so let me just stop this share very quickly, and then I'm going to go to one of the applications that I want to show you. And that first one is spatial. Now, spatial is very cool because, yes, if you have a full-blown headset, you can get into that and you can be fully immersed in the space. But if you also have a tablet or you can't see my tablet, but a tablet or a mobile device, you can also get into it that way. So let me just show you what that looks like here, and I think you'll find it to be quite interesting. So I'll just share very quickly. All right. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. And as I mentioned before, spatial is one of those applications that once you enter this particular space, you're able to get into it and really, I'm just going to go back to another one of our spaces here, the Center for Digital Humanities. And you start off by taking a photograph of your face, and you're able to then upload it to an avatar that you have within this particular space. Once you do that, you're able to move around this space, look around it. You can even import 3D objects, which can be manipulated by everyone within this space. You can bring up websites and make notes. You can also go to different video files or whatever the case might be. So it's very, very interesting how you're able to, and I'm not going to do anything very interesting here, but you can just see the different file types. Now, the really cool thing I love about this application is that you can take it into what's referred to as AR mode. So in going into AR mode, and I'm just going to turn my screen this way, you're able to then bring those individuals that are in your space. Point at a wall, point the camera down, and then place the wall. I'm able to bring all of those objects that you just saw into my virtual space. And so now you see the Savoy Ballroom that was in that space. But you're also able to then see any other individuals that may have been there with me in your real life location. So the AR aspect of this is really quite powerful with regards to, and I'm just rotating around there. Sorry about my contortionism here, but you can see the other 3D objects, and I can even manipulate those objects, making them bigger or smaller, and able to then, of course, explore them by even walking over to them. So you have full navigation within this space and are able to walk over and get closer or further away from either an object or a person within this this virtual environment. So it's really quite interesting how you're now able to play with reality in various ways. And if you ever wanted to have, say, a number of individuals, guests, colleagues in your space, and you can see them as they really exist, their real life faces, the facial animations, animate when you talk and everything. So you get a very interesting approximation of someone being there with you. It really does give a different sense of presence versus, say, a Zoom conversation. So you can imagine the family gatherings in spatial that happened over the holidays. Okay, so the next application that I'd like to show you is one that we've been working on here at my university called Engage. And this is a part of our immersive learning initiative that I started last year when I began with the 360 broadcasts. One of those cameras donated to classrooms so that faculty members are now able to broadcast in 360 from their regular classroom. And when we begin hybrid, we'll have half the students in the classroom, half the students being sort of virtually present in the classroom, but being able to look around at their peers because there's a 360 camera in the room. Okay, so the next phase of this initiative has been one where we're now working with a VR platform called Engage. As we began looking for different VR platforms that we could use for full immersion with a real VR headset, like the Oculus or the Oculus Quest or the Rift or the Vive, or even now the Pico, which is available for enterprises. You're able to do some different things. Not that one platform is better than the other. They just offer different experiences and different possibilities or different capabilities. So Engage right now is probably one of the most mature, fully immersive virtual environments, and it's one that we chose to pilot this year at the University of Arizona. So let me take you into that space, and you'll be able to see what it's like for students. This year, as I mentioned before, students were given the option of renting a VR headset from our bookstore, or they could purchase their own if they had, say, wanted to purchase an Oculus Quest. And many students were some were getting those for Christmas, so to speak, because the prices come down so far. Of course, the downside with going with one of those more commercial-oriented platforms or headsets is that, of course, you're giving your soul away to Facebook. So. Just my opinion. But in any case, we chose Engage. Now, just this this fall has been just so challenging, I guess I should say. Whenever you're an early adopter, digital humanists, you do have to be ready for the challenges that will come at you as you begin to do things earlier than, say, mass adoption. And Engage was one of those. It was the most mature of these full-fledged VR environments, but that maturity was more so geared towards the sciences and training. When they started to delve into education because of the pandemic, they were quickly trying to incorporate features that we're now just seeing. So back in August or September when we started this wasn't available. So we were trying to make it available through Zoom for access. And then we had some challenges there. But now we're able to do this on a tablet or on a cell phone even, or on a computer if you have a PC, not a Mac version yet. But I think the M1 Mac might actually work well on this, but we'll see. Or you can access it through a full VR headset. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to one of my classroom spaces here. Students are all given these instructions on how to download and install the application on their tablet, their mobile device, or on their headset, as well as how to get to our University of Arizona space, which they are subscribed to as students at the university, and then how to navigate to our classroom. We currently have 8 professors that have different classroom sort of motifs, and they can change those anytime they want based on the content of their class. So in my class, at least this winter, we had a very small group. In one of my classes, Afrofuturism, there were 5 students. In another class, African American Studies, there were 12 students. So I chose a more, intimate location where students can sit on couches. We can share video clips on this screen here. So if I wanted to say show some media, I can load my media here. I can say show a video clip. If I wanted to, I can make sure that, let me get back here, and then I've got to fix that bug. And then I can show a video clip here based on, I don't know, maybe Alice Walker. She's one of my favorite writers, right? And so we can see that that'll come up here on the screen here momentarily, I hope. And we'll be able to see how that looks. I think that's going to come up there. Oh, got to play it. Okay. Oh, well, that's not going to play for me. But anyway, you see the point here where you're able to choose different types of media in order to play here on the screen for students to experience, and they're able to really engage one another in a small setting like this living room. Another one of my classrooms happens to be a more grand kind of Victorian library, and students have actually taken us to dinner clubs, which are here, to recording studios, all virtual, as well as to a moon base when we were studying African American involvement in, say, the space program, and students wanted to depict the characters from Hidden Figures. So when I think about these virtual worlds, I think about possibilities here, not only in this, but also with one of the projects that I've been working on personally called Virtual Harlem, a project that is a representation of a portion of Harlem, New York, as it existed during the 1920s jazz age. So when I think about these virtual worlds, these are the possibilities I think of, and we're only at the very beginning of being able to engage students very differently within these kinds of spaces. So I'm very, very excited about the possibilities of immersive learning within distance education. You know, this was a thing a long time ago. I don't know if any of you remember an old VR platform, a semi VR platform called Second Life. It was very, very popular from about 2004 till maybe 2012, 13 or so. It's still there for those of you that want to take a look. But it opened the door for those of us in the humanities that saw possibilities with virtual worlds where students could create another persona and interact with one another very differently, and be able to engage one another and their course content in ways that we've never been able to do before, right? And so that platform really opened the door for these new platforms, which now incorporate full immersion, but soon will incorporate higher fidelity graphics in the form of maybe some of you have seen the application called Stadia. Sorry, I'm going to get my lights here; they're a little bit low. The application called Stadia, which is made by I think Google or somebody, and so being able to incorporate different levels of graphics that are streaming from the cloud, and being able to really change the way that you're able to interact with high quality 3D objects, because they're not all housed on a single device. They're streaming from someplace else, and because bandwidth has gotten so fast in some locations, you have some very interesting opportunities. So that's what we're doing with part of the immersive learning initiative. Now, the next part is what I think is more exciting than any of these other initiatives that we've been working on. And here's where I think the technology that we're exploring with volumetric capture is really going to, I believe, revolutionize everything that we're doing with regards to distance education, online education, sharing information and content with one another, interacting with various forms of content as well as one another. And what volumetric capture is where you use depth sensing cameras that allow you to, in an array of some sort, either 4, 6, or even more of these high resolution depth sensing cameras, you can capture a 3D video of an object or a 3D object, or a 3D video of a moving person, someone that's animated. So now imagine being able to realize some of that which we saw in, say, the old Star Wars movie where Princess Leia, appears and she's like, "Help me, Scott," whatever the line is. But here's where we're able to do that now. So when you think about what's going on with our current technologies, we're working with 3 companies that are exploring various uses of volumetric capture. One of those technologies is doing this in real time, where, as you see here on the left, the person is scanning the floor to set the plane, as you saw me do earlier. And then once that's done, he's able to then place the actor in real time who is standing on that tripod or in that platform in the back, moving around. So you can see as that person is moving in real time and waving, the person that is on his phone has, sort of rezzed that person and can walk around that person because he's been captured volumetrically. I don't know if you saw the scan, but this is the volumetric capture of those 4 cameras surrounding him that are capturing him in 3D, and the computer operator can of course rotate him around, but of course anyone that is receiving this 3D capture can also, with his or her finger, rotate that person around or even walk around that person. Okay, now keep that in mind as we continue. Now, imagine being able to, scan a QR code and see a person or your professor right on your living room table, giving you a lecture, answering questions, or even talking about a particular topic. Then imagine being able to entertainers.
Cause the water's too polluted with germs. I dive deep when it's 10 feet overhead. I grab the ring from underneath my bed. It's underneath my bed.
So imagine being able to bring in speakers right into your classroom, and you'd be able to see that person or those persons right in front of you that you can walk around, get close to, and understand differently. There are a new crop of headsets that are on the market now. This one, unfortunately, is not a good example of that because this particular headset, I think they've gone into chapter 12 or 11 or something like that, but they may be coming out of that. But this was one of the promising ones. I don't know if any of you saw the demo of this headset where the whale is jumping out on the beach and you could see it. It's high fidelity or what have you. That was sort of kind of happening, but other headsets are able to do this very thing that he's demonstrating. So check this out.
Hey Seth, thanks for joining this holographic design meeting. Can you give me a quick update?
Oh, it's going great. Let me show you how easy it is to assemble. Engineering did a great job designing this part.
And so
Is
he's
the angle of
walking
this
around the
leg up
figure.
to spec?
Good question. Let me check with design and I'll get back to you on that one.
Great, thanks Seth.
Okay, so an early beta of him walking around that figure, and you can see where, with increased resolution, better lighting, that figure would appear as if he or she might be a real person standing right in front of you, being able to access the information or talk with you in various respects. Now then, imagine the next iteration of these, whereby the person that's being captured has maybe a monitor or some way that he or she would be able to see textual information or hear comments from individuals that are asking questions and be able to respond to those. So it would appear as if that person were actually speaking directly to you as they're looking into maybe the main camera or something like that. So we have some very, very interesting possibilities here that we're right on the cusp of. Some of these companies are only doing recorded capture that you then put into a cloud service, and when scanned, it streams to your device. Other companies are doing this in real time and attempting to democratize the use of this technology. And that's what we're very excited about, because Microsoft used to have a volumetric capture theater. And the charge for this thing was like some ridiculous $8,000 an hour or something like that to process. Yeah, very expensive, I know, to process these volumetric captures. It was crazy. But what they found is that when the new crop of volumetric cameras came out that cost, $200, and people were writing software for this, that nobody was coming to their thing. They were setting up their own theaters. I've got one in my living room. I wish I could show it to you with two cameras. And so one of the companies we're working with, I'm so excited about it, is going to enable us to be able to, with decent quality bandwidth, be able to broadcast out in real time in volumetric. And so imagine being able to have a short conversation with students in this form as we're experimenting with these technologies. Now's the time for us to. I know that the live demos are always tricky, but we're going to try this time. I'm not going to forget to show this graphic, because the last presentation I got caught up in talking and didn't get a chance to show it. So for those of you with mobile devices, if you are not using your mobile device for this, or if you have an opportunity to grab another device and you can scan this QR code. Oops, I'm going to show you this video real quick. Sorry about that. And this is what you will be doing. So Omnivore is one of the companies we're working with that's doing this. And so they've got a great campaign with Nike that I'd like for you to try. So if you'll grab your phone and if you've got a QR code scanner, please go ahead and scan this and then follow your on-screen directions in order to allow the application to access your camera, maybe your gyroscope, but keep clicking allow and then follow the directions to then choose your size and then see your model or something like that. And then you should be able to see one of those models wearing whichever size you chose right in front of you on your table, on your floor, on your desk, whatever the case might be. And you'll be able to see the resolution that we're going to be working with this spring as we begin to experiment with not only using this technology for maybe short lectures, conversations, discussions with students, but also being able to do something with a brand new initiative that was funded here at my university called the University of Arizona Anti-Racism Extended Reality Initiative. And that's got so much potential here now. Now, imagine this scenario. You've just seen what can be done with volumetric capture, right? You've seen what the fidelity is. Now, imagine being able to place these volumetric captures in a particular geolocation. All right, now let's put both of those together. You've got a high fidelity 3D capture of a person. You've been able to place that in a particular geolocation, which basically means that you have to enter a radius of a location in order to see that experience. Now, let's connect that to anti-racism. Now, imagine what's been going on here in the United States. We've had, some very unfortunate, to say the least, encounters between people of color and law enforcement. Now, imagine being able to simulate that if we were taking maybe new faculty or students through, say, an anti-racism training here on campus. And as part of that training, they are tasked to take a walk around campus. And as they walk around campus, they enter certain geolocations where we have placed some of these volumetric captures. And one of those captures happens to be of a police encounter. Now imagine this. You're notified on your phone to scan the perimeter to see where, because that's how some of these can be triggered. You get the sort of haptic notification, your phone vibrates, and you scan. Then all of a sudden you see this police officer standing in front of you, volumetrically captured, asking you, what's your name and what are you doing in this neighborhood? And we can creatively time this so that a person can say, oh, my name is so-and-so, I work here. And then the police officer may say, well, let me see some ID. And that person can then pull out their ID and the police officer can say, I don't think that's who you are. Wait here, I'm going to call for backup. And then you have some choices to make, all right? You can either wait there and wait for the scenario to unfold, whatever that might be, or you can walk away. So let's say somebody walked away. They get a block down the road, and through volumetric audio, they are able to now hear sirens coming from a long way away. And then they're notified again to scan the perimeter, and they have 5 police officers standing in front of them now, guns or tasers drawn, asking you to say something, pull out your hands, and whatever you do, the results can be, say, unfortunate. So we have the opportunity to simulate some very, very cool experiences that now, imagine now doing that with some of the new breed of AR glasses that are going to be wireless, connected to a small device, but connected to cell towers. And now you can just look around and see these things in front of you. So we as humanists can imagine all of these amazing uses for these technologies as we begin to then think about, okay, so how can we leverage the use of, say, digital technologies for making use of augmented reality in this particular way? How can we make use of any of these other tools to increase our understanding or our awareness or our empathy or any other objective that we may have as it pertains to the human condition? So that's our charge. That's what we're doing at the University of Arizona. And as technology continues to evolve, we are going to continue to see new ways to use these new tools. And it's just a very, very exciting time right now. So thank you very much.